And yes, there's no data on parking. People don't share actual data at the zoning or planning commission level.
So yeah, I
Why?
that's well, it seems every planning commission meeting I've been at is more anecdotal. Oh, well, it seems that there's traffic or parking's tough at 5 p.m. or after. Like, it's just always a stat or a personal stat that people see something on the street. And I've been saying this for years is to have at least a citizens parking. I mean, we could have a parking survey done, just checking out each of the blocks and get a baseline of parking and how bad it is. I know it's bad. It's certain times it's bad, but it's also there are places that are open where it does take a couple of blocks to walk. Okay. I know where to park where I can find some spaces and we can do that. But I think this is what is problematic is we only look at the anecdotal stuff instead of always bringing up a chart or here's this area when we put in a new development saying, oh, this has a parking impact during this whole time frame of a day as well as a week. Like that should be a baseline of any design and strategies we have with development and new development. It shouldn't just be like, oh, parking's going to be tough, we need more parking.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought up this issue of parking, because parking alone, in my conversations, especially with some of our Commonwealth employees who were called back to the office, parking was actually a significant decision in them being called back to the offices, because apparently those particular entities were losing money. Let's be honest. Right? So it goes back to also how certain decisions are being made on behalf of the community
Uh,
or of the residents, right? Where it's not about the residents' health or safety, it's more about, okay, these businesses need to make
we need to keep
money.
those
You know,
going. Yeah. Yep.
parking needs to create revenue, or like, oh, moving the parking limit from 8 p.m. to 6 or 5 p.m., right? Because that affects who then is able to go and frequent these business areas, right? So cost is a really big issue, and it all depends on, again, who is being centered in the conversation, step one, and who are those that are going to be making those final decisions on what is the best implementation for a solution moving forward. And we're seeing a disconnect between those two demographics of those who are complaining, hey, we do need more parking. Because let's also be honest, there's parking structures downtown, but also there are people who live in the city who cannot afford them to
And,
park overnight or to park for more than an hour. But the issue is not availability, the issue is accessibility. There's plenty of parking, but who can afford it at the current rates, given that it's been sold off to a private entity?
so,
There's the
yeah.
question.
And so there's a side thing I worked on with the Harrisburg Federal Courthouse early on. This was back in the mid 2000s, and the idea is like looking at parking feasibility studies, impact studies. This stuff gets done. Like this data can be out there. We could do a citywide baseline of parking and the current situation, so that we can have these informed discussions and really call out that same thing. Like, oh, we want businesses to survive, the parking structures to survive. Well, what about the residents? And actually changing the way, is it affordable? And I would even add, we're not even talking about mobility and access with public transportation that should be thought through in this. So that's a whole other level. Again, we just default to the easiest. It's the low hanging fruit of parking. It's a cash cow because we can put a lot down. This is what I tell people all the time with the low impact of why we have so many surface level parking spots in cities. That's the lowest common denominator with development. You throw down some asphalt, you just get people parking and you charge money. That's a revenue generator. That's the lowest common denominator for city space, unfortunately. And we need to be thinking better and bigger for residents.